Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. What's it from? Come on, tell me.
Welcome back. Welcome back,
right.
Carter.
There you
Mr.
go.
Carter. John Travolta's, as far as I know, first role in life. I don't know. He may have done something before that, but man.
I'll go with you on that. And
Mr.
But,
Boom Boom Washington.
Yeah.
That guy was cooler and cool. Anyway.
Welcome back. Hope everything went well for you this past week. Hopefully you had a great weekend celebrating Mother's Day. Hopefully mom in your life was appreciated in some way, shape, or form. And I'm sure your kids came up with something wild and crazy to do as far as making mom as less of burnt breakfast as possible in bed. I'll make it. I want to make it. Let me do
it. That's great. Yeah. Oatmeal's not supposed to be that lumpy.
Mom likes jelly beans and pancakes. Let's put them together.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. Do it just to make her just to watch her eat it. No, the kids made it for her. You have to eat it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna video it, by the way, too. Try not to cringe.
Nice.
Oh golly. But yeah, so hopefully you had a good Mother's Day. But yeah, it's been a pretty good week. How about you, man? How's your week been?
Yeah, I mean it's Tuesday, so yeah, I'm winning so far.
But yeah, but since last time that we talked, it's been a week. So
oh yeah, I got you. So my week was pretty good overall. We had a pretty good weekend, pretty busy. My 10-year-old has got a violin now. And we're
okay.
giving him violin lessons. He's been playing on our we have an electric piano. It's not an organ per se, but whatever you call those things, that he's been playing around with for a long time, and got a hankering, I guess, to play the violin. And I honestly tried to help him broaden his horizons a little bit, because violin is the most popular instrument in the string orchestra. Everybody wants to play violin.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't want to carry a bass around either, or a cello.
Yeah, and I get that, but with little kids, I don't know what it is, but I played violin. It was great,
Yeah.
But so I did take him. We went to the school a couple weeks ago, and they had like the fourth graders going into the fifth grade.
Oh, the try it out. Yes.
Instruments. Yeah. So he did. Tried the violin, tried the viola, tried the bass, and tried the cello. And I'm telling him, like, look, man, cello or bass are where you need to go, because there are so many unused college scholarships for bass players.
Oh yeah.
I just know it because everybody plays the violin. I said, if you play violin, you're going to be one of 1,000. You play cello or the bass, you're going to be one of maybe 100, maybe less. He didn't care. Yeah, he did try him though. So
I knew a guy on my floor in college when I was at Indiana University who was on a full ride for playing the oboe, and he was first chair in the orchestra, and yeah, it was pretty wild, because I mean that's another one of those instruments that not too many people go for.
Yeah, you don't see, and that's the thing is, because I've told Fabian since middle school, you should play the tuba. And he's like, what? I don't want to play the tuba. Nobody wants to play the tuba. And I'm like, that's why you should play the tuba. Come on.
That's right. But you could play the VeggieTales theme song if you can play the tuba. Sorry. This is the first. I'm having a real good ADHD night, man. Between hearing the tuba and immediately getting that, and then you mentioned violin, and I thought immediately of the Goonies, where Chunk's like, no, my hand, I want to play the violin, as he's getting ready to put it in the blender.
Yeah. Yep.
So bad.
Well, Goonies.
Such a good show. But yeah, well, that's cool, man. My kid also had that a couple weeks ago, and I don't know, it just didn't seem to really, like, I didn't go with them. They do it like during the school day, actually. And I asked him, I was like, yeah, like, what did you think of all that? And he really didn't have a whole lot. Like, I thought he would maybe like venture towards the drums because he's always talked about that, but he just was like, nah, I'm not interested. I'm like, that's fine. Whatever. You got time. It's all good.
Yeah.
So,
This one was pretty cool. They had it at the high school,
huh.
and they had a quartet playing at one point, and just there was a big we left before this, but they had the whole band assemble as well to play for us. Marcus didn't want to watch it because he can't play in the band until 6th grade, so he can't do anything. It's got to be strings this year if he wants to do anything, and he was I don't
Okay.
want to listen to them. And I'm like, okay, cool, okay, fine.
Okay.
But
Okay.
he did have every grade had a voice concert. I don't know how to say that right. On Friday, I guess it was.
Yeah.
So 1st grade came in and they sang 2 songs, and 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and I left after that because it got into 5th grade and it was orchestra coming in, and I'm like, I've spent enough of my life listening to 5th graders and 6th graders and middle schoolers play the violin or the orchestra, and it's just like, wah, why, right, yeah, by 7th and maybe 8th grade, they're actually good. I mean, they stay together. There's still a little bit of lag, there's still a little bit of disjunction, but man, at 5th grade,
Mm.
if my kid is there, I would stay. But yeah,
What?
I went twice because I went once in the morning by myself, and then I went once in the afternoon with Marnie after she got off work, and I mean, it was great. Listen to him just sing like Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Listen to my 8-year-old sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow with all these other kids. It was amazing. It was so pretty.
Yeah.
But 5th grade orchestra, I'm not
That's where
ready.
you get flesh. That's where you get the flesh tone ear plugs you put in.
And just clap. That was
I can,
amazing, I think.
you can hear. I mean, it's not gonna make it noise canceling, but at the same time, at least like when you know one of the kids goes like across the thing, you're like, oh my gosh,
It's not as bad.
no, exactly. You're like, okay, I can handle that. Well, everybody else is going, so it's like cringe. Oh man. For us, I mean, I was telling you guys last week that, Corey's Mother Day present was the fact that we were remodeling the basement and putting in a bathroom.
Mhm.
And I felt like I had a really good learning experience this weekend in frustration. Because how else are you
All
going to
right.
learn?
Yeah.
So we had bought a lot of the different fixtures and things ourselves because I can get a military discount at Lowe's with it. And so it was like, all right, this will help cut down on our bottom line.
Mhm.
And we had conferred with our contractor on the things that we purchased to make sure that everything was going to fit, no problems, and was given the green light to purchase the things that we needed to. And then there was just, I think, a misunderstanding of what was going to happen with the bathroom because the shower base needed to actually be raised up so that it would drain properly because it's in a basement and it's not like there are just drains running in the concrete floor there. So we kind of had to make it up our own. Well, the door that came with the base, once you raised it up, didn't fit anymore
Oh,
because
yeah.
the ceiling was too low. Um,
Right.
and unfortunately, the contractor never like measured after the base was just sort of even just barely like not installed, just set
Mhm.
on the platform. That never happened. And then Friday, he was getting ready to install the door and was like, "Oh, this is a problem. This doesn't fit. We're like 4 inches short because it was raised 4 inches." And
Yeah.
so this big debacle ensued of what are we going to do? Because the contractor on one hand was saying, well, you guys bought it. It's on you. You didn't know, that type of thing. We were like, no, it's on you. You didn't measure twice and cut once kind of deal. Like, and it's been here the entire project. And we made our darndest that everything fit. So after going back and forth all weekend, finally last night, after yesterday spending most of the day talking to him, trying to figure things out while he was here working, he agreed to the fact that he messed up. We were holding our
Right.
ground on it, like, and we had to buy a new door to
Mhm.
fit in there. And so he agreed to mark down the cost of the door from our final bill so that everything matched up and was made right. But to me, the one thing I learned from it was like, you don't have to be mean and nasty with somebody to like get through to somebody that this needs to. Yes, it sucks that you're going to take it on the chin, but at the same time, like there's an ethical right way to do this. And it was one of those things where I wasn't mean to him. I showed him all the facts. And I mean, he still could have basically said, screw you, like, and figure it out on your own, which would just made things super awkward. But he came to the realization that, okay, like I'm in the wrong. I'll fix this, that kind of deal. But to me, like if that would have been me 5 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, I don't know that I would have had the confidence to basically hold my ground the way that I did for my family. I don't know where that comes from exactly. I think some of it actually, I feel like some of it I have to basically say comes from honestly hearing different guys in our organization talk about the things that they've went through and how like they persevered through that stuff, making it to me very obvious that it is possible to come out on top from a really bad situation. I guess that's me just saying thanks to all the guys out there who have like shared their hard, tough, like shitty experiences and like the things that they've gone through. Because if it isn't for those guys sharing that stuff, like I wouldn't have possibly been able to get to this point where things are in the good. So I just wanted to share that.
That's great.
Yeah. And tonight we have a cool guest, actually returning guest. Are you excited to talk to our returning guest?
No, I talk to that man all the time. I'm done with him.
Oh no! Oh shoot!
Yeah, no, I haven't actually. I've actually have not talked to him in a while because of some changes that he made in his life and such with technology.
Sure,
and
yeah.
I applaud him for it. But yeah, it's been a while. I've seen him maybe once or twice here and there, but
yeah,
definitely have not had any time to talk recently. So it's great.
Yeah, I'm excited. So we've got Joshua Domosh back on the show tonight, and we're just gonna have a fun time talking with him. I honestly, like you, I haven't had a chance to really connect with him, and I was super excited when he reached out and said, "Hey, like, remember we said we were gonna do a second show and talk about some other things? I'm ready to do that." And I was like, "Sweet, like, let's get it scheduled." Yep. So he'll be on here in a little bit, and we'll be talking with him more about just all kinds of fun stuff. So we'll be right back. Become a member of the National At-Home Dad Network, an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support, connecting with households where dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar and podcast series, mental health support groups, regular online social events, as well as our annual convention. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to past convention speaker presentations, the ability to vote for board members annually, and ensures that the organization's fees and bills are in positive standing. Oh yeah, it should not go unmentioned that there is some cool swag headed your way if you decide to become a member. For only $35 a year, your membership provides you with the exclusive content only we can generate, and you'll be supporting an organization that benefits families all around the country and world. By advocating for them, offering them community, providing education and guidance, and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. And one last thing, if you contribute $500 or more, you will become a lifetime member. Not only will you receive everything already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At-Home Dad Network challenge coin with our trademark logo, Dads Don't Babysit. So, what are you waiting for? Become a member today. Hey, we're back. And like I said before, we have Joshua Domosh with us. And tonight we are going to talk about all things Passover. But mainly, we're going to talk about I feel like one of the main things we're going to talk about is preparation for Passover, because Joshua has told us before that it is quite an undertaking to get prepared and ready, and he is sort of the Ask Jeeves of the Jewish world when it comes to what do you need to do to get ready. So I'm excited to talk to you. How have you been, man, since the last time we had you on?
It's been a while. But yeah, thank God everything's good. Uh, yeah, nothing really crazy to report. Um, so that's good.
How's the kid?
He's good. He's doing really well with speech therapy. He's progressing really well, gaining weight again. So he's doing fantastically.
Awesome. And I take it the wife, is she on break right now, or where is she at in her
Yeah,
studies?
yeah, she's on break until May 31st.
Now, is that an air quote on break type of deal? Like,
So this week she's on break without the air quotes.
okay, good.
Come next come next week, she may they already sent out the readings and the syllabus for next semester, so she may start getting a head start on that. Because her next semester is only 9 weeks long, so it's a truncated semester, so it's really intense. So she may get a jump start on that. It's fine. But yeah, for this week at least, she is officially taking a break and not doing schoolwork.
So, what does it look like when she's on break for you guys as a family? Like, are you able to connect and do more, or what is that? How does that pertain to you guys?
So it doesn't change all that much during the week. For me and her in the evenings, it's easier because she's not studying till 10 o'clock at night or later. So that time is the same, but she still works full time. So she's out of the house Monday through Friday as it is. So that doesn't change. But the weekends are a lot easier. We could go do things. We actually went Sunday. We drove from where we are in Central Jersey to Baltimore and back. Went to see my mom. She's there on a business trip. So we came down for the day to
Cool.
spend a little time with her and let her see the grandkid.
I'm sure Grandma appreciated that.
Yeah.
Awesome. We talked last time about the fact that you know a lot about kosher law, and we discussed a lot of just sort of the ins and outs of that. And when it ended, we just kind of felt like there was more that could be talked about on that topic. But even more than that, you were like, you could talk about Passover and how you prep your house and some of the different things that you go through. And I thought it was very interesting. And I thought maybe that this would be something that others would find interesting as well. Danny, have you ever done anything that connects with Passover at all?
Only a little bit. We did have Passover was always a known thing, not that we celebrated it, but because of where it fell into my faith as a Christian. So it kind of, they intermingle in a lot of ways. And then I've helped cook and serve a Seder supper, which was put on by our Catholic Church, just specifically for the purpose of trying to get a better cultural understanding of how things were in Hebrew life before Jesus. So other than that, not really. It was very interesting for me around Passover when working in Atlanta that there was a stall in so many things that customers that I had would say, "Oh no, wait, you can't come by that whole week, and you were doing this and we're doing this," and it never really clicked for me that all of them had the scriptures on the door post, a menorah, no,
No.
The mezuzah.
Mezuzah, thank you. And but later on, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And it took a dawning moment for me to figure it out. But really, no, not too much. I will say that I really think that a good reason to have Joshua on to explain, a lot of what he has to do and goes through and the difficulties of it for understanding, of course, but with the understanding that he's a stay-at-home dad. And he's got a large load to carry at this point. I likened it once and, apologize for my simplicity and ignorance in some ways, but for our preparations for Thanksgiving, where it's not the same thing, I know, but it's that type of intensity or stress that you put on yourself. And I've talked with Joshua before a couple of times, I think 2 years now, I think, at least 1 year. And that just total draining and demanding, and how, beyond the normal things that we do on a daily basis. So I think it's really good for us to have him on so that we can kind of learn to realize what that means too.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I honestly, like, just from my background with theology and just my faith as well, like, I've always been interested in learning more about the Jewish culture and different holidays and things like that. And Passover for me, like, that's one that, I mean, as a Christian, like, it's like, oh, it's right around like Easter or whatever, but it's nothing like that. Like, like, the only other connection that I come up to with it is like, you watch the Ten Commandments, and they're there's that whole scene with, like, like, so, like, angel of death or whatever coming through, and if you don't have blood on the door, like, it killed, like, the firstborn or whatever.
Or for the younger generation, the Prince of Egypt.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, fine. Yeah, that too. So I never really saw.
I've seen both.
Okay, I've only seen the Ten Commandments. I've actually never seen the other one. So, and I don't know if that's just an age gap or what the deal is, but it just, I don't know. It just never sat down and watched it.
Your repertoire.
I guess I'm gonna have to sit down and watch that one here soon. So, but so
it's animated. The kids will like it.
Oh, there you go. Actually, I think the kids have actually watched it. I've just been doing other things when they're watching it, so that's the difference there. But you mentioned Seder, and you did explain a little bit about that it's a meal or whatever, and I'm sure that's just scratching the surface of even what that is. So let's kind of start there, and then we'll get into other things. Like, what is Seder, and what can you tell us about it?
Sure. So the Seder is the meal we have the first night of Passover. In everywhere outside of Israel, we actually do it 2 consecutive nights. There's a whole reason for that. But basically, outside of Israel, we keep an extra day of the holiday. And the reason for it basically is that 2,000 years ago, we didn't have cell phones or clocks or the man in the clouds telling you what time it is. So they would send runners out the Jewish holidays all based on the moon. So they would be declared by the courts, and then runners would go out to the diaspora basically and alert the communities, like, okay, the month started on this and this date, and therefore Passover is going to be on this day. So some places were too far out to get a runner, and some of them, the runners would sometimes they'd arrive late, or things could happen. So a lot of times what they did was they kept 2 days, because maybe the first of the month was on this day, or maybe it was the day before, because the lunar cycle is 29 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes, and however many seconds. So you could have a 29-day month or a 30-day month, because it goes back and forth. So if you don't know which day it is, so then your holidays, you don't know when to put the holiday. So you keep it for 2 days, just as a, I'm not sure which, so I'm going to do both. So out here, even though we have all the calendars and whatnot, we still follow the old custom. So we keep 2 days of Passover. So we do a Seder both nights. And the Seder is a meal that basically it is, if you're a parent, it's the greatest. It's my favorite holiday, and it's my favorite, pretty much my favorite thing to do, because it's a built-in time of the year to teach your children, get them involved, and to show them what being Jewish is all about. You go through the whole Passover story, the enslavement in Egypt, and coming out, and plagues, and everything, until the freedom and crossing the sea. And then we have another holiday in a couple more weeks that celebrates the giving of the Torah, which was 50 days later. But the Seder itself is it's the point in the calendar that basically without it, that you'd have no Jewish people at all. You have the opportunity and the responsibility at this night, basically, or 2 nights really, to teach this whole story and the traditions and the importance of it to your children, And it's important to do that all year round with whatever your traditions are. You're trying to give over your morals and values to your children, but this is really the built-in night for it. And so, on the one hand, it's a lot of pressure. So when I say we're prepping for Passover, there's really two preparations. There's the prepping the house, and there's the prepping your mind really to get yourself into this education mode. Every parent on this night becomes an educator. Um, Whether they're a stay-at-home dad or stay-at-home mom or whatever it is, this is their night to give over their customs and traditions and values and beliefs to their children.
That's awesome. I feel like that is definitely like a missing piece for a lot of families, to just have that opportunity to be able to build into your kids that way and your family that way. That's really awesome.
It's fantastic, and it's set up also. We go through a Haggadah, the Haggadah or Haggadah, depending on your pronunciation. It's basically, it goes through the whole story of Passover, but it's the whole Seder basically in print form, and a lot of it's question and answer, because it's not just your job to teach your children; you're trying to get them involved. So the best way to get your children involved is to get them asking questions. So there's all sorts of, I don't want to say random things we do, but maybe odd is the right word. There's odd things we do, or things we add to the meal that it's like, why are we doing this? Like, we don't do this all year round. Like, what are we? Why are we eating while leaning to our side? And why are we? We made the blessing on the wine. Normally the bread comes out a couple of minutes later, and we're not going to eat it for the next 2 hours. Like, why are we doing all this? So it forces them really to be engaged, because they want to understand what's going on. There's plenty of opportunity for them to ask questions.
So what kind of food is involved in a Seder? Like, are there like specific things that are actually like, these must be here, or is there like some sort of like list to pick from? Like, how does that play into a Seder?
So there's certain things that have to be there. In ancient times, when there was a temple, there was the Passover sacrifice, or in Hebrew, the Korban Pesach, and that was a lamb, and that was roasted, and you would eat that at the end of the Seder, along with
roasted
matzah,
lamb.
which is,
That sounds yummy.
so you eat that with whatever else you're eating. I mean, it's a very like young lamb, like it has to be under a year old, um, and you could have a number of people registered to be part of your group. So you could end up with a piece this big, so it's not going to be enough to eat from. So there's other things involved, and that one comes at the end. And then there's matzah, which is our unleavened bread. And there's several different kinds of matzah. There's In the 1800s, they started making machine-made matzah. Matzah in general is just flour and water, unless it's, some people make an egg matzah, which is just flour and eggs, or they'll make it with like flour, egg, and wine. That almost nobody nowadays makes their own matzah at home. It's a very complicated process and very easy to get wrong.
Are they going to like are they going to a bakery then to get it, or how? I mean, like,
not normally. Normally
thing?
they're getting it. It's in the store, comes in packages, and so the machine matzah companies, and the big matzah companies, they're starting to make it already in like December, sometimes a little earlier, and they sell it depending on the company and where they are in the world, by the pound, by 2-pound boxes, by a kilogram. And some are handmade. So they mix everything together and then they roll it out by hand. And then some are not, like crackers. So most people, when they think matzah, especially here in the United States, they think crackers, either the square crackers, the round ones. The ones I have are actually soft. They're almost like a pita, or like a laffa or flatbread. So those are actually, I keep them in the freezer, and then just warm them up before we eat them. And then in addition to matzah, there's some form of vegetable. Typically, it's a bitter vegetable. Typically, people use romaine lettuce, and I know the next question is going to be romaine lettuce isn't bitter. If you let it grow long enough, it actually turns bitter. So we basically say that even if you've got younger romaine lettuce and not the older stuff, still it's something that would grow to be bitter, and therefore that's good enough. Some people do horseradish, some people use endives, and you eat that together with the matzah. Nowadays, without the Passover sacrifice. You still have the matzah. You still have the whatever vegetable you're using. And those are the required foods. And then people also customarily have a hard-boiled egg. And then people have there's different customs in different communities as to what other foods are allowed to eat. So
Okay.
there's like we have a custom. We eat rice, and we'll eat corn. A lot of people will not eat rice or corn or any type of legume because those sorts of things you could turn into a flour and make a sort of semi bread out of them. In a lot of cases, they used to be sold and transported in the same sacks that were also used for wheat at separate occasions, so things would get mixed in. So a lot of people have a custom just not to use any of those items because they don't want to have an issue with having any type of wheat or barley or other forbidden item.
Now, I know the answer to this, but I think it'd be good to talk about why unleavened bread.
Right. So the Torah says that when the Jews left Egypt, they had to leave in a hurry. And so they didn't have time to let the dough rise. And so in commemoration of that, we do not eat any leavened bread. And matzah is made with the same things as bread would be made of, typically wheat, sometimes rye or spelt. There's 5 grains of forbidden: wheat, barley, rye, spelt, and oats. So anything made with those has to be carefully monitored for Passover use. Matzah is typically made from wheat or spelt, sometimes oats. Almost never. I've never seen rye matzah, and I've never seen barley matzah. Just don't think they'd be very good. But spelt is very similar to wheat, so it's a lot easier than oats. Some people make it, some people don't use it. That's again, that also goes for your custom. But so those are heavily monitored and processed, and they can only be made with water. You can't mix water with any type of other juice or not even like salt or anything. It's just flour, water, mix it very quickly, gets thrown into an oven, and the whole process is typically under 15 minutes from starting with water and flour to from the point they start mixing until it's in the oven, and really out of the oven it's under 15 minutes.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I didn't know that how that worked. Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't realize that was a process. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I worked in a matzah bakery for a couple of years.
Okay.
We had one in Florida. My rabbi built one in his backyard, so we did that for a few years.
Okay. So we've kind of touched
I had
on
to look up spelt.
Oh, you look up spelt.
I've never heard of spelt. It's one of those things, Just so that's
well. I mean,
what's that?
Issues with other things grain. Like beer is made from barley and whiskey is made from wheat or corn or things. So you can't use any of those things on Passover. It happens to be there's a company that makes a sorghum whiskey. Sorghum is a cane grass.
Yeah.
So actually, I have that right here.
I pronounce it sour gum, but that's because I'm a redneck. So.
Sorghum whiskey. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good. The first time I had it, I was not sure about it. I couldn't place the flavor. And then the second time I had it, I think I was telling you, Brock, I was having it. My wife was in the back, and all of a sudden I just kind of screamed out, "Butterscotch!"
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
I realized, like, oh, that's the flavor. Now I know what it is. And, sometimes when you can't figure something out, you can't tell if you like it or not. And once the flavor clicks, oh, well, that's 1,000 times better.
I really do like this.
So wait, so the sorghum whiskey, is that something that you're able to find out only like in your area? Like I've never seen that before.
So this is from Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. It's called Ethan's Reserve.
Ethan's Reserve?
Yeah. They make a bourbon and a rye also. Just happens to be that around Passover time every year for the last few years since they started putting out a sorghum whiskey.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for that because I'm very intrigued to see what the butterscotch is.
Try the syrup.
Okay, there we go.
Try sour gum syrup.
Sour gum syrup, huh? Yeah. I like that
hey,
bottle.
Man,
That's
I'm
cool.
just as redneck as I can be. Just covered up most days. I try to not talk with a drawl. Try to enunciate, but yeah, we used to have sorghum whiskey in the house when I was, I mean, because it must have been my grandma's or something. But yeah,
Okay.
it was just a thing. I never considered, of course, where it was from, or I didn't drink it because I was a kid. But yeah.
So we've touched on what Passover is, but the thing that I'm most interested in, because we've been talking about this on and off, is that, as a stay-at-home dad, like you take on the preparation for Passover, which is quite a preparation, honestly. It's not prepping for Thanksgiving the way that most of us would prep for a big kind of holiday, because Passover's it's how long is it? It's not one day.
It's 8 days.
8 days, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of things involved in it. Like when we've talked to you, like you talk about how stressed you can be and how, like, you're doing all these different things. Walk us through what preparing your family, your house, and also working with your community is like to get ready for celebrating Passover.
There's a few different parts to it, because there's that mental preparation. Then there's the so I like to say, before we get into the actual how prep goes, we kind of like to say that just about every holiday meal we have, not every one of the 8 days has a holiday meal, but there's two the first day, two the second day, two the seventh day, and two the eighth day. So we like to say that just about every one of those meals is like a Thanksgiving meal. So I'm making 8 of them.
8 Thanksgiving meals. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, and I do that multiple times a year, because it's not just Passover. I have Passover, Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah, and Sukkot, and it adds.
That's good
There's
perspective.
a lot
That's good
involved there.
perspective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but in order to even get there, so like you said when we started, we talked about kosher before. It doesn't matter how kosher anybody keeps their house; it's not kosher for Passover. And the reason for that is very simple: is that all year round, everybody cooks with wheat or rye or spelt. People have oatmeal. People, make a barley soup. So you have all the forbidden items in your house, and now you got to get rid of them. So way back when, it was a lot simpler. We didn't have refrigeration. We didn't have freezers. If you wanted to preserve meat, you turned it into salt jerky, and that was it. So the older Jewish texts, like the Talmud, they talk about people, getting ready for Passover from the night before, which in our day and age doesn't really work. They used to have smaller houses, again, no fridge or freezer. So by us, you have to kind of plan it. So my wife and I kind of sit down as Passover is approaching, and we figure out, when do we want our house to be kosher for Passover, because we're gonna have to start cooking before Passover starts. So it's not going to be the day of. We're going to need some more time than that. So I think this year we set our sights on Passover was Thursday night, or no, Wednesday night, and we set our sights on the Sunday before Passover. The entire house would be ready, and just about everything really was. There was like one or two items we had to do on Monday, but we had everything ready to go Sunday night, at least in the kitchen. The living room.
Yeah. So when you say you're prepping and you're getting things ready, like, is that the thing where you're talking about where you're like certain alcohols have to like leave the house? Is that during that time too?
It's not at that time. So a
Okay.
lot of people, what they'll do is they'll specifically just start using up things from like the month, starting the month before Passover. So if you have oats and pasta and things, you're going to start making more meals based on,
Okay.
have oatmeal for breakfast every day. You're going to, have pasta 3 times a week and try to use up those things. And then anything you don't use up, you have really two options with. You can get rid of it and get it out of your house, meaning you can throw it out. You could donate it if it's closed to a food pantry. Um, you could give it to your non-Jewish neighbor, or the other option is to sell it. So what you do is you basically, let's say you have whiskey and some other things that you're not getting rid of. You want to, and you don't necessarily want to, or don't have anybody to give it to, or you don't want to give it to somebody. So you lock it in a closet, and markets over Passover, and you basically authorize your community rabbi as your agent, and the rabbi sells to congregations. The word in Hebrew is chametz. It's all any leavened product to a non-Jew for the duration of Passover. And in a sense, it's kind of a little bit of a legal workaround, because in most cases, he's not coming and knocking on your door in the middle of Passover saying, "Hey, you know, I bought your Woodford Reserve. I'd like to, take it home with me now." It used to be in some communities they had a custom. The rabbi would take the guy around and on the middle of Passover, knock on people's doors and be like, "Hey, you sold this, so he can take what he wants." It's not typically done now, although if that did happen and the rabbi knocked on my door and said, "Hey, I got the guy here. He wants to," sure, have at it. But most of the time, what happens is that the non-Jew will come in, put down a token down payment, and after Passover, if he decides that he doesn't want to procure everybody's alcohols and breads and everything else, which in larger communities, some people do it. They could be selling $800,000 worth of items to somebody, and they put down $50 as a deposit. So at the end of Passover, the rabbi buys back, and then everybody can go ahead and use it.
Oh, so it's just like, yeah, give me my $50 deposit back. We're good, kind of deal.
Yeah, basically. Like,
Okay.
yeah, I decided, what, I don't actually want all of that stuff.
Okay.
And there's more involved. Like technically, like when they would go around, and actually bring this guy to people's houses, they would actually bring 3 appraisers with them. So they would say like, okay, you have this bottle of whatever it is, and the 3 of them would say, okay, yeah, it's worth $100, it's worth 120, it's worth 130, and then would average it out and say, like, okay, the guy's got to pay X amount of money for this item.
So what I'm hearing you say is that being a non-Jewish guy, like I need to go find some like Jewish friends and be like, hey, like I'll take some of your whiskeys off your hand. Like I don't know. To me, I'm like, all right, like I don't know. I'm being very facetious here, but I mean, so like this
fine.
But this guy though, like, I mean, who is he? Like, is he a friend of your community? Like, do you actually like know this guy? Like, is it? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
They're actually different communities, obviously different people. They're the one guy, the guy in California is not buying, the stuff from people in New York and vice versa.
Okay, yeah.
Typically, in a lot of cases, sometimes the synagogue will use, say, like the janitor, because they know the janitor and they have a working relationship with the janitor. So we know where he is. We have his phone number. He's easy to contact. Yeah, sure. We'll use John. In other cases, I know in Riverdale, Rabbi Willig runs one of the largest sales in North America, and there was a guy, can't remember his name now, but he and Rabbi Willig used to do this. Rabbi Willig contracted with him for like 40 years, so they had a great relationship. And yeah, and the guy's not Jewish, but he considered Rabbi Willig like his rabbi, so to speak, and they had a really great working relationship together.
Okay.
So he retired to upstate New York, and he actually came in for a year or two every like the day before Passover to conduct the sale with Rabbi Willig.
Oh wow.
So,
okay. That's cool. This was curious.
Yeah, other places they find they have someone they know, but sometimes they'll change people every couple of years. It really is all depending on what the local rabbi wants to do. Basically.
Okay. And what do you have to do to prepare? Like, okay, you've mentioned some different things in conversations with us before on like the Dad Lounge and stuff like that. But I mean, like, I remember like you talking about like countertops needing to be covered and like things like that. And a lot of us guys were like, what? Like, what's going on there? What kind of stuff are you doing to prep for for this this holiday?
Right. So we have to basically make everything like newly kosher. So like I said, we're using all the things that are forbidden on Passover. We're using them all year round. So we kind of have to take the ovens and sinks and countertops and everything else and basically bring them back to almost new status. So that involves cleaning out the sink entirely, getting into little nooks and crannies, making sure everything's been cleaned, hasn't been used in 24 hours. And then on like sinks and countertops, there's one form of koshering or making it kosher that's typically used, which is you pour boiling water over the surface. The ovens are a little more intricate. So with the ovens, you have to clean the entire surface, make sure there's no residue, make sure there's nothing stuck to the bottom or the sides of the oven, make sure the grates are totally clean, and then we kind of burn out the oven. If you have a self-cleaning mode, that's the easiest. When I got my oven, I did not get self-clean, and every year I think to myself as I'm cleaning out this oven and scrubbing away for hours on end, I'm like, I really should have bought a self-cleaning oven. Like, if I had an extra $1,000 lying around next year, before Passover, I'm just gonna get a new oven.
This would be a great place to put that money.
Right. It's gonna save me a heck of a lot of time, and it would.
This is where we make a plug. We're gonna make a plug really quick. LG, come on, hook this guy up with a really nice self-cleaning oven.
LG, GE, Whirlpool, whoever.
Somebody send this guy a self-cleaning oven.
Right. Happens to be GE would probably be the best. Not because GE is the best brand, but they have a working relationship with the Orthodox Union, which is the OU, the kosher agency.
I like that. Okay, General Electric, let's get on it. Come on now.
And so they actually have in newer models it's built in, and in older models it's a plug-in item, but the item knows, and it's programmed for 30 years worth of Sabbath and holiday times. So
wow,
you don't have to do anything. You just the refrigerator just turns into Sabbath mode before the Sabbath starts. The lights turn off. The compressor is not triggered by opening the door, and it basically makes it totally Orthodox user friendly. The oven switches into Sabbath mode, which means that it won't, as you open the door, it won't turn the fire on. It'll just keep it at an even temperature, and it'll turn off at some point overnight. So they have all these things are like they're plugged in now.
That's really cool, though. I didn't know something like that even existed. That's actually a really cool piece of just kitchenware.
Yeah. So the cheaper models also, even the newer ones, a lot of them, you just have to get the plug-in thing. But there's a spot for you. You just plug it in, and you're good to go for the next 30 years. So you'll be good to go until the fridge dies, basically, because nothing new today is lasting for 30 years.
Okay,
that's true.
Yeah, but, no kidding.
That's very dad of you, by the way, to say that. They don't make them like they used to. It's like a chant.
So you mentioned that
absolutely true.
Yeah. You're making things new back to the original section. I know that you mentioned using aluminum foil, I think, or something like that. Like
so that's like the last step.
Okay.
The sinks in the oven get done first. The stovetop also gets totally cleaned, and I go with little nooks on the gas burners with a toothpick or 100 because they break, just to get whatever gunk is in there from general usage and get that out. And then the stovetop grates also, clean them typically with steel wool, and like easy off and make sure they're basically new. And then the oven, so if you don't have a self-cleaning oven, you make sure the oven's totally clean, and then you basically turn it up to its highest temperature for like an hour and a half. And then different methods of doing the stovetop. The way I did it was I put a heavy sheet of aluminum on top of the stove and just turned the burners on high for 20 minutes. And as my grates got to red hot, I was like, okay, now we're done.
Purified by fire.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's kind of exactly a purified by fire. Yeah. There's nothing left.
Mm-hmm.
And then the counter. So some people, they'll kosher the countertops, clean them, and then pour boiling water over them. It also depends on the type of countertop, whether it's stone or plastic. If you like a plastic countertop, you're not going to do that because you'll probably ruin it.
Mhm.
So that's what we have. So we clean it very well, and then we cover it in a layer or two of extra heavy duty aluminum foil. So by the time Passover comes around, my kitchen kind of looks like a spaceship.
Yeah.
The CIA is not getting in there.
Definitely not going to
Spaceship.
have to worry about any cats getting up on your countertop. That's for sure.
No, no. But yeah, the countertops are clean. The fridge is cleaned out. Totally like clean, and then we have a stand-up freezer, so same thing there. So a lot of that, especially playing with fire and cleaning chemicals, I do at night because I don't want to use that around my 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Just feel like it's generally not a safe endeavor.
Yep.
Last thing I need him to
Genius.
do is, eat a spray of Easy Off or,
Mhm.
stick his hand in a fire or something. But he did actually this year. He helped me clean out the fridge and freezer.
Nice.
Yeah, and helped me sweep the floors and whatnot.
Nice.
And
Way to go.
so we go through all our cabinets and everything else and make sure that everything that is going to be sold is put in the right cabinet. And everything we're going to be keeping out is, put in the right place. We have separate pots, pans, and silverware for Passover. Our plates that we use all year round are glass. There's different customs regarding glass, whether you can use it for Passover and year round, or if they have to be separate. Our custom is that glass is fine to use for whatever you want, as long as it's clean. My dishwasher, I clean out, clean the filter, clean all the vents and whatnot, and then run that on a couple cycles with dishwasher magic at its highest sanitized setting or whatever it is.
So in other words, you're
Um,
like the master of like the deep clean is what I'm understanding. It's what I'm catching from this.
Yeah, and it takes some time. I started the cleaning process about the Saturday night, not the Saturday night before Passover, but the previous Saturday night. So
Yeah. Okay.
12 days before, something
Is
like
this
that.
something but this role to like clean, like is this typically a role that dad takes on? Is this a family role? Is this a mom like thing? Like what has this been like in the culture in the past?
So it's interesting. A lot of people who would think that, well, mom's normally at home, so mom should be doing a lot of this. And it's quite the opposite, though. In fact, there are some, for lack of a better term, more mystical sources that say that really the men should be doing it. Not because, uh, you know, it's not a woman's job or anything like that. It's more of we all were, it wasn't just, women enslaved in Egypt. It was everybody, and everybody really should be getting involved in the process. And that really, it's not specifically Passover related. It's really for everything, for Shabbat, for any of the other holidays. There's parts of the Talmud that go through actually different customs that different rabbis had as to what they would do to prepare for Shabbat. So some of them used to chop the firewood, and some of them used to go do this, and some used to go do that. There's actually someone I don't know him personally, but I know of him in Israel who his children love setting the table and getting the house ready for Shabbat. And there was one time one of his younger sons was a little disruptive and misbehaving. So the child's punishment was that he wasn't allowed to help prepare for Shabbat.
Okay.
And for most children, I think they'd be like, "Wow, cool! I don't have to set the table. Great." But for this child and in this family, it was such a important, momentous thing. The climax of every week is getting the house ready every Friday afternoon. That
Mm-hmm.
he was just like almost heartbroken that he wasn't
Yeah.
allowed to be involved in it.
Well, I think at that, they at that point have to understand that there's honor and, respect and, helping with it. And so to be told like, you don't get to do this, like that to me, I would click immediately and be like, oh, like I'm not getting to do this honorable thing for my family. I made poor choices.
Right.
And now I'm being told to set out and watch it happen. Like I could see how that could
And that's
definitely,
exactly it.
yeah.
Now, even my son is two. He doesn't understand that concept, but he loves helping. So now that Shabbat starts so late in the evening, he doesn't really help set the table, but he helps, Friday night or Friday morning or afternoon if I have to run errands. He'll come with me. He'll run the errand with me. We'll go pick up whatever we need to get. He sits in the kitchen with me while I'm doing some of the cooking. On Saturday morning, when we're setting the table for our lunch meal, we give him all the plastic things that are coming to the table. His plate and his utensils. He puts um, the challah cover on on top of the challah. A lot of times he'll put the container of hummus or whatever it is on the table. Also, he really enjoys doing that. We're trying to instill that in him from an early age of, hey, we're all involved. We all do as much as we can. In the past, when my wife wasn't in school, my wife was a lot more involved. She was still very involved this year. She had a couple of nights off, like one right after a test, and she didn't have a test coming up that week. So there was one night she checked the rice. For those who eat rice, there's a custom to go through however much rice you're using. We use 2 pounds. You check it 3 times to make sure you don't find anything in there that's not rice. So one night my wife sat there with the bag of rice and checked through 2 pounds of rice. Another night she was able to help me do some of the last minute cleaning and foiling in the kitchen. So it's not like my wife went into right along with me went into superhuman mode and said, okay, I have a little extra time and I could use it to sleep, but she came right in there with me and said, okay, let's get this done. And this way, come the Monday before Passover, I was already cooking.
So why is Passover so important to the Jewish community?
So without Passover, there would be no Jewish community. Passover is it's that night that we instill that foundations of belief to the next generation. It's we say this in the Haggadah: if we weren't redeemed from Egypt, we'd still be there. Whether that means 2,000 years later we'd still physically be in Egypt, I'm not sure. Especially since Egypt went through however many dynasties and was conquered however many times by Babylonian, Assyria, and the Greeks and Romans and however many other people. But we'd still essentially be in that either physically slaves to somebody else or at least in that mindset. And so without Passover, it's the defining moment of going from a small nomadic family clan to essentially the birth of a nation. And in Jewish tradition, we have, you can see from all the books behind me, we have laws not just governing our holidays and Shabbat, but there's things that govern monetary law and marriage and divorce and all sorts of other things. And the ideal in the Torah is not for Judaism to be a religion, but to be a reality. It's to be a society, and it's so that there's a lot of different rules and laws in the Torah that have to do with the functional or the functioning of a society. So there's differences. Actually, one of my wife's cousins, his doctorate from Brandeis, and his thesis was on the difference between American and Talmudic tort law. So
alrighty then.
Yeah.
I like how
go him, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's without Passover, none of that would be possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it is basically almost like the biggest moment of the year to a certain extent. And what a lot of people don't know is that the month that Passover falls in, which is Nisan, it is on the Jewish calendar the first month of the year. And a lot of people don't know that or think that's really weird because Rosh Hashanah is 6 months later at the first day of the 7th month. So our new year starts in the middle of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But because of what happened in Nisan when the exodus from Egypt and again that first formations of becoming not just the small group of people but a whole nation, that is Passover. and so therefore that whole month becomes the first month of the year, and the chief of the months, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, the birth of the nation. It makes good sense.
Yeah. So before we go, like I said, you are kind of what I consider to be like an Ask Jeeves for
Oh yeah,
Passover, because we were talking about
You got to
this.
get a new reference, man. You got Ask Jeeves is so old.
Fine. You are the Google. Does that
It
work?
hasn't existed
yeah.
in decades.
I know. I'm just showing my age. All right. Stop. Leave me alone.
Decades.
So
Fine. Fine.
when did they close Ask Jeeves? Like 2005?
I don't
2005.
know. Okay.
Switch it over to just Ask.
Ask. Okay, fine. Well, then we'll just say that you're the Google. How's that? Is that better?
The
Is
shell
that better?
answer man. You're the shell answer man.
Shall answer.
Also way old. Yeah. So anyway, you're the Google.
You're the paperclip of no, I was kidding.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we'll go really way
I
back
don't want
if
to
we're
be
gonna
clippy.
get.
No one likes clippy.
Nobody likes Clippy. Poor
I'm just
Clippy.
showing my age, man. Okay, I figured
actually
we're gonna
happen
go
to
there.
like clippy, but
One of the few. One of the very
He
few.
was just there to help.
yeah, he's annoying, but he's he's kind of cute.
He just reminds me of the DNA guy from Jurassic Park. That's all.
Makes the boing noise too. Just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
DNA guy.
Yeah. So, but anyway, you get asked lots of questions. Is it, I don't know, is it Discord or Slack or something along those, or Messenger? I don't know what it is. Like you sound like you're in a lot of
So-
different places where you're getting all these questions. But what are people asking you that they don't already that they should know themselves?
So I started in 2018 when I was living in Philadelphia. I started a WhatsApp group. It was mostly at the time for the people in the community I was living in, to ask, for the most part, their kosher questions. It happens to be I get questions on all sorts of topics, Shabbat, Jewish business ethics, or medical questions, or a lot of those. I just go like, it's above my pay grade. I'm going to refer you to someone else.
Good response. I use that a lot too. It's above my pay grade.
Yeah. And I don't get paid at all. So everything's above my pay grade.
Oh yeah, no, I hear you. That's, I mean, yeah, I get it.
But no, I did it. I did it as a service, and I still run it. And there's people now. There's people in there that I don't even know. That got added to it, or someone asked it like, "Hey, can you add this person?" I just added the phone number, and
I know a guy. I know a guy. Put him in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's basically a lot of the people in there are people that I don't know if they're disenfranchised, but they don't necessarily have an outlet to go to. They don't have an LOR that they're comfortable with. That's a slang term for local Orthodox rabbi.
I was gonna say, what is LOR?
Yeah, it's your local Orthodox rabbi. A lot of times, if there's somebody asks you a question, I'll be like, look, that's more of a, ask the community rabbi kind of thing. Just like ask your LOR. Some of the people on there, I am their LOR, even though I'm not local. But it gets very active in the month, 6 weeks leading up to Passover. And the reason being is there's a lot of conflicting information, and a lot of it is based on, I'll give you an example. Seltzer. So seltzer is made with, it's water and carbon dioxide. So where does the carbon dioxide come from? So in a lot of cases, the breweries in the United States, they have carbon catch systems. I'm not sure if your brewery has one of those, Brock, or not.
I don't think so.
So it's a lot of the bigger breweries have it. It's not something a lot of the local guys have. They're very expensive. But what they do is they have carbon catch systems. They catch the carbon dioxide that's given off in the brewing process. And a lot of places will reuse that they add extra carbonation to the beer before it's bottled. Other places, they have so much of it that they sell it. And a lot of seltzer companies will buy, or soda companies will buy this carbon dioxide. So the opinion of the Star K is that it's carbon dioxide. Doesn't really matter where it's from. Doesn't matter if it's, from the beer making process or from some other process. It's a gas, and it doesn't have to be kosher. So their policy in their Passover guidebook says you can buy any plain seltzer. If it has a flavor or any other additive, so then that you get into all sorts of other issues with that. But if it's just water and carbon dioxide, so you can buy it. The two other really major organizations in America, the OU and the CRC. CRC is out of Chicago, Starcade in Baltimore, and OU is based in New York, but they supervise 1.3 million products worldwide, so they're everywhere. But the OU and CRC's opinion is, well, if it's a byproduct of the beer, so we can't just ignore that, and therefore the seltzer would have to be made with carbon dioxide that comes not from beer. So you would have to buy seltzer that is approved for Passover. So that's one question.
So wait,
so
before you get into, so I know that Coca-Cola makes a specific recipe for Passover. Is it just not carbonated? Is that the idea?
No, it's carbonated. They get their carbonation from some other process. They also, about 90% of the Jewish people in the United States are of Ashkenazi, which means like Eastern European descent, and basically across the board in Eastern Europe, they didn't eat legumes or corn or rice, and Coke in America is made with corn syrup.
Right.
So that's a problem for Passover. So the Passover Coke, in addition to not being made with a beer run off carbon dioxide, they also change the sugar to cane sugar. So it's real sugar. It tastes different and tastes more similar to original Coke, obviously without the cocaine. It's
not much of the taste.
It's the most similar to the original recipe as you're gonna get.
I don't know that cocaine's kosher, so I would imagine that's probably out.
I mean,
we won't get into that. That's a whole nother that's a whole nother can of worms.
That's definitely an ethical more than a kosher.
Yeah, sure. So, all right. So basically, yeah, that's good to know because I've been curious about that.
Coming up to Passover, I get questions on, what do I do about this product, or is this okay? There are certain things that are made all year round with supervision that they're made in a non-problematic way, and they don't need to be supervised for Passover. Common ingredient is plain white sugar. Does not have to be supervised kosher for Passover. You could just buy plain white sugar, not a problem. There are people who say you should buy it before Passover, but even that, you could just plain white sugar. You could buy, milk. You buy, milk doesn't really have to be kosher for Passover. So I get questions on a lot of if this item is on an approved list. And I typically I have the Starcade guide, the OU guide, I download the CRC guide, and I have the JSOR guide. So I have a lot of different, pamphlets in front of me telling me which products are good or not.
So with Buffalo Trace's kosher whiskey, I mean, is that something that you have to section off to the side, or since it's kosher, do you get to keep it?
No, it's kosher, but it's not kosher for Passover.
Okay.
So I did sell it. I think,
I was just curious. We've talked about that before, so that's why I was curious. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I did sell that. And then I get other questions on, not everybody has totally separate utensils. So if you don't have, a separate pot, so how do you make this pot or this pan or whatever it is? How do we take it back to, that new kosher status? I had one question somebody asked me on Passover. Oh, I accidentally used a utensil that was not kosher for Passover. It was in the wrong drawer. What do I do now? That happened before Passover. I said, I made my kitchen kosher for Passover. I'm already cooking, but there was a mishap, and now I made this, thing. And what do I do? So I get very busy with all of those kinds of questions.
I mean, so let's just use the utensil. Let's just do a simple one. So the utensil goes into the wrong drawer. I mean, people are seriously, like if I'm listening to this, I'm like, I got to know at least one of these things. So I got to know the answer. So when you have a utensil that's in the wrong place and you use it, I mean, what is the repercussions? What do you do?
Right.
Give me your advice.
Right. So it depends who's asking. There's a big difference in it's basically two. It's a really I don't know, I can't even think of the word. Really nondescript way of saying it, but there's basically two main camps. You have your Ashkenazi Eastern European camp and your Sephardic camp, which is basically like North Africa, the Middle East, and like Spain and Turkey. Um, so the Ashkenazi Eastern European camp, if you made something with a utensil that was not allowed or it's not kosher for Passover, so then you have a problem and you can't use that item for Passover. If you made it on Passover, you can't eat the item. You just have to throw it away, and you're out of luck. If you're on the Sephardic East Europe or Middle Eastern Spanish descent, then there's a lot more leeway. So if the utensil hadn't been used in 24 hours, so then don't use it again, but your food and your pots are totally okay, and you can just continue using them. If you used a pot that was not kosher for Passover, so again, put it away. Don't clean it in your kosher for Passover sink. Just just
Okay.
throw it in the trash bag and throw it where it's supposed to be. But you don't have to get rid of it. The food's still technically all right. You don't have to worry about that so much.
Right.
So I have to know not just what the question they're asking, what parameters the questions are, but I have to know who's asking and what their general familial customs are.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like it's a very simple answer because you've got to
Not always.
You got to do a little.
Some of them are really easy. Like, hey, I accidentally used barley and made a soup. Yeah, that's not okay.
Yeah.
That's a really simple one, but a lot of them there's a lot more nuance.
So you got to do a little detective work. I get that. That's cool. Well, I'll tell you what, man. I honestly really appreciate the fact that you're very open, and it seems like you're very just approachable, and people trusting the ability to contact you and ask you these what I would seem to be, some of them might be embarrassing or difficult questions, just depending on the situation, honestly. But to know that they have somebody to bounce that off to and be like, hey, like I did this, like where am I at in this, and to have the trust in getting answers from you, like that's, I don't know, like I feel like that's something that in some ways like has been lost in society in different areas. And so to have folks like you who are in your neighborhood, in your culture, in your faith, who are accessible, is just a huge resource. And so I really appreciate you coming on and explaining it to us. I mean, I learned a lot. And I Danny's shaking his head.
Yep.
So man, I feel like every time you come on, we learn a lot of stuff. And honestly, like I just wanted to say thanks for sharing it with us, because
that's me. I drink and I know things.
Hey, there you go.
A mind needs a book like a sword needs a whetstone.
Like
actually, I found
same guy.
I found a quote recently from it was a medieval rabbi, and he said that, and I'm going to totally butcher this because I'm translating it on the fly from medieval Hebrew, but basically that a person's wisdom can only reach the level of the amount of books he has, and therefore you should sell everything you own and just buy books.
I think you're well on your way.
That in itself is wise.
I think you're well on your way with your library that you have then. Oh shoot. Well, hey, Joshua, thanks for coming on, man, and just basically teaching us about Passover. And I hope that anybody who listens to this, that they took something from it. And if they've got questions, like, let us know. We'll pass them on to Joshua. So like,
Yep.
that's,
I'm available.
Yeah, you got the What's Up app, so we can go that route. But no, really though, it's been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate it. I honestly I'm tagging GE in this, and I'm basically putting out the challenge that they send you a self-cleaning oven, man. So we'll see what happens. Why not?
I won't turn it down.
There you go. That's what I wanted to hear.
I'm not
All
expecting
right.
it, but I won't turn it down.
Well, I'm putting it out there, so we'll see what happens. So anything's possible. But anyway, with that, we'll talk to y'all next week, and hope you all have a great week. So see you later.
Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.